What is going on, guys? And today I'm going to be bringing you guys a guide on how to climb MMR. This is mainly tailored for low MMR players or newer players trying to look up for a guide on how to climb MMR and win some more games. Hopefully you guys do enjoy. If you guys did, consider subscribing and joining the Dota Chronicles community, and leave a like and also share it with your friends so they can also learn some of these tips which have helped me climb the ladder. One of the first key tips about pretty much any game that's competitive is stay calm and don't tilt. Now this is easier said than done. Some games are extremely tilting, not only because you may not be performing well, but also your teammates might actually be throwing or feeding intentionally, and that can pretty much tilt almost any player. But you need to stay calm. I've won so many games off the back of keeping the rest of my teammates positive. Dota is a game of mistakes, so if the enemy team makes more mistakes than you are more likely to win. So you need to keep that in mind, and the enemy team is pretty much going to be within your same rank, so they can make as much mistakes as you can. And even though you might be a player down, you can still make a comeback and still win the game if you have the right heroes and have the right mindset. But that is just something that doesn't happen a whole lot. A lot of players will just give up because their support is running down the mid lane. Try doing something different. Try and motivate that player to actually come back into the game. Try and get them more involved, and try and sort of figure out the issues in your team that's not gameplay related. And try not to tilt your teammates as well, because we all have bad games. Nobody's perfect in Dota. Even pro players, they end up having bad games as well. So don't beat yourself up for having a bad game. Also, don't beat your teammates up. Try and coach them in a nice way. I know some players can't handle being coached, but you can give them a tip here and there. And if they don't accept it, just mute them. Honestly, some players are just going to be like that. You're not going to be able to help out. Even if you're trying to be a nice person, it's not going to work out. So just mute them and try your hardest to win the game. That's all that matters. Never give up in Dota. You always have a chance to win. Until that ancient is down, you have a chance to win. Doesn't matter what the deficit is or how many towers you're down or what their net worth actually is. Another super huge tip is use your minimap more often. Now, I know this is also quite difficult to do, as Dota is a game where a lot of things are going on. You're last hitting, you're fighting heroes, you might be shipping out something in your courier, you might be buying something at the secret shop, you might be looking at a guide on how to actually itemize on your hero, you might be doing a lot of different things at the exact same time, and you might not have a lot of time to actually focus on your map. But you guys should be paying attention more to your map than anything else, because that'll give you a ton of information, pretty much everything you need to be more survivable and to get more kills and to do the best things around the map is to be able to take a look at the map and know exactly what's going on. Obviously, if you see that there's a mid laner missing and it's roughly around where they hit their level 6 timing, then you know they're pretty much going for a rotation. And if you're the carry, you're more likely than not going to be the target. So go back to the jungle until that mid laner shows back into the creep wave, and then you're going to feel safe. Not only that, if you see supports are missing, especially supports like Pudge, those supports are going for a gank and you're most likely going to be the target. So again, step away from the creep wave, step away from vision, walk away, go take a side camp and see when that hero is going to pop up and where, and you're going to avoid getting ganked non-stop. Now sometimes it's unavoidable, they smoked or something like that, and you're not going to be able to see that coming most likely. That requires a lot of game sense for you to be able to tell those things apart, but in general you're going to die a lot less, which is going to help you win more MMR, because you're going to be getting more net worth around the map and you're going to be staying alive, which in terms of your net worth, it's going to be quite beneficial for you. The next super crucial step is keeping your hero pool low. So if you're a player that struggles a lot in the game of Dota 2, you need to keep your hero selection to about 1 to 3 heroes and play those 1 to 3 heroes every single time. You're going to notice that you're going to become more masterful on these heroes. You're going to become much more at peace with picking these heroes into rough matchups and rough lanes, and you're going to be learning these matchups. You're going to be learning how the game works, and you're not going to be thinking so much on what if I level this ability, or what if I level that, or should I take my ultimate now or maybe take it later. You're going to be a lot more knowledgeable in terms of that hero. So keep that in mind, that the more you play a hero, the more you're going to become a better player with that hero. So keeping a small hero pool is going to make you a more proficient player, and it's going to take a lot of the guesswork, because more likely than not, when you have quite a few games on a hero, you know exactly what to build on that hero. Depending on the situation, you're going to know what item build to actually rotate to help you maybe do more damage or be more survivable. You're going to know the answers to some of the important questions you have to ask yourself in a Dota 2 game. The next tip is use your microphone for communication. Now, if you don't have one, then type with your keyboard and let your teammate know what your intentions are. If you want to go for a smoke play, ask for it. If you want somebody to do something, ask nicely, and they're more likely to do it. But if you're being a dickhead, no one's going to help you out. You're just going to tilt your teammates, and it's not going to go very well for you. But but communicate. It's going to help you out a lot more often than not communicating. And sometimes it does feel a little bit annoying that you have to communicate with some players that are tilted or they're just being dicks. But at the end of the day, communication is key in Dota, and the more communication you have, the more likelihood you have of winning some team fights and actually winning some more MMR. So communication is key, whether you're typing or you're using your microphone. I find my microphone to be a lot more useful. I don't like typing a whole lot. I'm also not very quick at typing, so I typically don't do that as much. Another thing you guys should be looking is look at the draft before you pick. Now, I know there's not a whole lot of time before you start picking your heroes, but take a look at the draft and see what you actually want to accomplish. If you're the carry, look at the carry to carry matchup if available. If you see a faceless void, you know you're going to be chronoed, so maybe pick a hero that does well against chrono. Heroes like Wraith King, you can pick him up and he's going to die once inside the chrono and you're going to be back up. So you can pick heroes like that and know you're going to have a good carry to carry matchup and you're going to do very well. So keep that in mind. Also, look at the support you're going to be having if you're playing a core. Look at the support you're going to be playing with in your lane. Is that support very passive? What does that support want to do in the game? If it's a hero like Pudge, you know they're not going to be staying in lane a whole lot. They're going to be rotating. Heroes like Tusk as well, they don't want to stay in the lane for too long. They want to roam around and start getting kills with the rest of your teammates. So pick a more survivable core. Pick a hero that can stay in lane for much longer. Heroes like Wraith King, Axe, these heroes, Beastmaster, these heroes can easily stay in lane. Depending on the matchup, obviously some matchups are pretty difficult, but they can always fall back to the jungle. But these heroes are overall pretty sustainable and pretty easy for you to stay in lane 1 versus 2 without getting completely shut down. Another thing you do at the beginning of the game is think what your purpose is in the game. What are your item timings? What are you looking for in the game? And I don't want you guys to start being cookie cutter players where you just open the guide tab and exactly what the guide tells you to do is what you're going to buy. Take a look at what the hero you have is going to accomplish in the game. So let's say you're playing a hero like Lycan, you want to get Helm of the Overlord because you're playing Summons Lycan. But if you want to play right click Lycan, you know that's not going to be your build. You know you're going to want items like Echo Saber because he's a universal hero. And that's another thing you have to keep in mind as well. For you to build your hero, you need to pay attention to what their attribute is, because typically on strength heroes you want to build strength, and typically on agility heroes you want to build agility. Not all the time is the same way, but most of the time it's going to be like that. You're going to have a few agility items. And also think about the game in what problems you need to solve. They have a lot of magic damage and you're the offlaner, then build a pipe. You're going to be helping your team. Build a Guardian Greaves to keep your team sustained, and you're fixing problems around the map. Don't create problems, find solutions. And that's something players tend to not do. They like to play the blame game. Oh, my support didn't have detection, my support didn't do this, didn't do that. And I see that all the time, and it really annoys me to see. If you have a teammate that's not carrying dust and they're a support, which they really should be carrying dust, I do understand that part, but if they're not doing it, carry it yourself. Take a slot off. It is annoying to do because sometimes you need all 6 of your slots to be able to be more efficient on certain heroes. But at the end of the day, if they're not willing to do it, then you have to do it yourself. Fix the problem yourself and don't always blame your teammates. Sometimes they didn't have enough gold or they just forgot to do it. So you can't always blame your teammates for everything. Do it yourself and you're going to be much better off. Another cool tip is that Dota Plus actually provides a lot of information, provides a lot of stats, and throughout the game you also get some pretty good stats. I do like Dota Plus. I use it every single month, but if you don't have the available resources to be able to pay for that every single month, it's definitely not a must, but you will be gaining more MMR as of it because you're just going to be getting more stats. And if you're interested in learning on what net worth you should be at a certain time or how many last hits or kind of keep track of that, Dota Plus is a pretty good tool in my opinion. Some players don't like it as much, and you also have access to pretty cheap skins because you're able to buy them with Dota shards. So the more you grind the game, the more free skins you're going to be able to get with these points. I definitely like that idea. A lot of players don't want to spend money in the game, but they also want to look cool on their heroes. It's a pretty decent way, and it's not so much per month. I believe it's around $5 in Canadian, so it's probably about $3 and change, $4 in American. So it's not a whole lot of money, but I understand some players might not be able to afford that, so that can be difficult, but it's definitely not a must. But it's a pretty good tool and I definitely enjoy it quite a bit. Another super important thing you guys need to learn in Dota is last hitting. This is going to take you from Herald to pretty much as far as you can go. But if you're a bad last hitter, if you're not good at securing CS, you're not good at getting those key item timings, you're going to be pretty much hard stuck for a long time. Now, you need to be good at team fighting, you need to be good at a lot of things in Dota, but last hitting is what's going to get you those items. So it's going to get you the lead, it's what's going to give you that most amount of XP, and it's going to give you enough to be able to win some of these matchups that are quite tough, or maybe kick the enemy out of the lane and give you even more of an advantage. So try the last hit trainer before every single game, or at least once per session, just to warm up your last hitting. At least play it for 5-10 minutes, get your last hits warmed up, and try and practice, because it's no pressure. When you're in a game, you're going to be busy with other things. You might feel pressured into missing last hits and such. Don't feel discouraged. We were all really bad at last hitting at one point, so no one's perfect, but it's something that we always have to practice. It's something that I do once in a while. I don't do it every single time because I consider myself pretty good at last hitting, but typically when I'm having a pretty off day, I will go back for the last hit trainer and practice a little more and kind of get my fingers warmed up and try and do the best I can. And it's a really good tool that you guys should be using. I highly recommend it because you're going to be getting a lot more farm, and that is super important. Dota is a lot about items and map knowledge, but if you have a lot of items and the enemy team doesn't have a lot of items, you already have a big advantage by that. It's a really big advantage that you can be getting. Another thing is, don't go crazy with the team fights. A lot of teams just constantly want to keep fighting and fighting and fighting, but that also depends on draft. If you have a carry that needs a lot of items, let's say you guys are playing with a Phantom Lancer. Phantom Lancer is not the type of hero that wants to be active early on. Even if you have a good laning phase, you don't want to be active early on. You need 2 or 3 items to be even able to start pushing lanes and such. You want to stay in the jungle and farm. Don't feel pressured by your team that you're not joining the rotations if you're trying to hit item timings, or if it's not a good fight. Obviously, if you're in the vicinity and it looks like a really good team fight, you guys are either outnumbering or it's just a pretty free fight in general, then definitely join them. Don't be scared to do so, but sometimes it's more beneficial for you to ignore the team fight and you're going to be getting much more farm, because if you end up dying in that team fight and not getting anything out of it, it's going to be a really big issue and you could fall off very, very easily. And that's where problems start to arise. You need to be able to make the call. Is this a fight I want to join? What am I going to get out of this? And what could potentially happen if I don't get anything out of this? So let's say you guys are close to a BKB timing and you're pretty close, but there is a big team fight that's about to brew, let's say in the bottom lane. Are you going to benefit from this team fight, or if you die, you won't be able to buy BKB? I'd rather stay in the jungle, get the BKB, and if the fight hasn't happened or it's still going on, then I could definitely TP if there's going to be an advantage to it. But if most of my teammates are dead, everybody casted their spells, and I can't potentially clean up, then there's no point of me doing that, and just stay farming, stay pushing lanes, and still being active. Don't go AFK farm. Obviously, try and join some fights here and there, but some heroes you will have to go AFK. Heroes like Anti-Mage need a lot of farm to be online, and they're the type of heroes that you don't really want to be very active early on, because that's just the nature of the hero. It needs a few items to become a very strong hero. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. If you guys learned something, consider subscribing and leaving a like. Drop me a comment and let me know what MMR you guys are and what do you guys struggle with the most in Dota 2. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.